How could he look at this situation and think, you know what? Hey, man, we're going to be okay. Like, we're going to be able to continue. Of course, he doesn't. Like, he'd be delusional.
Hello, welcome to the Hoop Collective podcast. We talk about the NBA, which we're doing on Wednesday morning after midnight. Joining us from Los Angeles, California, proudly filling in for Tim Bontemps, is Syracuse's own Dave McMenamin.
Happy to be here. Timmy B, don't get Wally pipped. That's all I'm saying.
It could happen. Timmy B, I don't even know who he is. Can't remember. Joining us from Dallas, Texas, where he continues to luxuriate after covering a sweep. It's Ben McMahon.
Howdy, partners. I think this should be more like a Norm Nixon, Magic Johnson type of situation, and we can get that scene where they're playing one-on-one in the suits from what's the show? Help me out.
Winning time.
Yeah, I've seen Bontemps hoop. Now he does brag, Mac 10, about swatting your shot.
Oh yeah, okay, there we go. We had a whole 2 minutes before that came up, but sure, he did get me. He got me.
All right.
Tim did hit the final game winner.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
He sent me a thank you card referencing
all right. So a big night in the NBA on Tuesday, 4 playoff games. I'm sure it's happened before where there's been 4 playoff games, game 4s or 5s. I don't remember, but it felt like a pretty big night. I guess they were all game 5s. All right. I want to start with what went down in Indianapolis. Just a tremendous game. A lot happened. Most importantly, the Bucks were eliminated by the Pacers. Tyrese Haliburton with a game winner. Well, he had a game tying dunk to force overtime on a power drive, and then in overtime, it's just an incredible drive and score. But really, what happened was the Bucks were so gritty in this game. And Gary Trent Jr. played the role of Damian Lillard. I don't even know what he had, 30-something points. But guys, and I know the thing happened with Tyrese Haliburton's dad, John, after the game, which we'll talk about in a minute. I know Haliburton had this great moment where he jumps on the scorer's table, Dwayne Wade style, celebrating his great play, and then he tweets after the game, overrate that, which I know caught Dave in a special place because it was kind of a Kobe reference, right, Dave?
Oh yeah.
So we had 2 references here. The amnesty that obviously Kobe Bryant, after beating the Dallas Mavericks on a fadeaway when Mark Cuban had suggested that the Lakers should amnesty him and move off him, but also we get the Coach Boeheim overrated drop here when he talked about Jerry McNamara after he took Syracuse to the 2006.
I think you're being a little. I think you're making Jackson tear up.
Okay.
But I do not think that Tyrese Haliburton was referencing Jim Boeheim on Jerry McNamara.
Amnesty that for sure.
Yeah.
Mark Cuban flapped his gums on the Ben and Skin show on the old 103.3 FM ESPN in Dallas. It's now like a whack job religious station or some such. And yeah, then Kobe lit him up and then let him know.
Well, just so our listeners and viewers know, there was this thing back when Kobe was playing where you could use something called an amnesty, where you could basically take a player's contract and put it off your books. It was something for salary cap relief, and like players who had big contracts who were no longer worth their contracts got amnestied. A couple of big names. And, Kobe was coming back off the Achilles and, was wanting big money and, whatever. But the way Kobe tweeted it was amnesty that THAT in all caps.
Oh, yeah.
And that was exactly the way that Tyrese tweeted it. Which, and by the way, that, Tyrese was a teenager when that went down. There's no way Tyrese wasn't really remembering that.
Oh, plus he's a guy, like he's got a Puma deal now, but he was a guy who wore Kobe.
Yes.
He was
right.
He was a Kobe guy. And, the fact he was just, obviously, that's referencing him just being named the most overrated player in the NBA by the Athletics Anonymous poll, which Carlisle had his little thing. But I tell you, what a moment though. It took a complete collapse by the Bucks to
Well, that's what I want to talk about. I mean, I we'll talk about Tyrese's moment in a second.
okay.
Here's the stat from ESPN Stats and Information. And guys, it's a jaw dropper. Okay? So, first off, let me just say in every collapse, or if you want to call it in every comeback, there's always a missed free throw. You've heard me say this in the past. It is going to hold true like almost all the time. But when AJ Green hit a free throw with 40 seconds left in this game, the Bucks went up by 7 points. 40 seconds left in overtime. 7 points, 40 seconds left. AJ Green missed the second free throw, which is the one I'll always miss free throw. But nonetheless, here is the stat. Since the play-by-play era happened, in other words, since there's databases for this, it's 1997, basically. Since 1997, teams were 0 and 1,609 in the playoffs.
Oh, no.
And I got to imagine it wasn't much better in the regular season in terms of winning percentage. 0 and 1,600 when trailing by at least 7 points in the last 40 seconds of the fourth quarter overtime. Now, the number is going to be really high because if you're down 27, you're not catching up. But the point is, you got a 3-possession lead with 40 seconds left. You are generally home free. Okay? And not only did the Bucks lose, they lost. I mean, not only did they, lose the lead, but they lost the game. They gave up an 8-0 run in the last 40 seconds. And this is what the story of this game is about. I mean, you can look at other things. We're going to talk about what happened in the extracurricular after the game in a moment. Gary Trent had 2 turnovers, including the Pacers are desperate. First off, Andrew Nembhard hit like a 30-footer. That was a huge 3. That was a big moment. That cut the lead from 7-4. But Gary Trent has back-to-back turnovers, and the second one was just backbreaking. The Pacers threw 2 double teams at the Bucks. The Bucks defeated both double teams. They got the ball out of both double teams, and the ball comes to Gary Trent wide open on the wing. I mean, he can shoot the 3 if he wants, or he can just stand there and dribble the ball out. The ball just goes through his legs. The ball just goes through his legs like a little league shortstop.
After touching his hands, though, Brian, it touched his hands and then dribbled through his legs, it wasn't just a full whiff. It was like he just lost control of it. It was brutal because he played so well in overtime too. Like
he played great all game. I mean, he had
big shots,
8 or 9 threes. He was awesome. So he's the hero. He goes from hero to GOAT because, going back to Game 6 at home in Milwaukee, obviously the Bucks would have had momentum. No Dame, who knows? That sets you up to potentially 7. And then what I thought was amazing, and I haven't read all of the interviews from post game, but the Bucks, so the Bucks are on defense. The ball gets inbounded, no timeouts, and the Pacers call a play. Pascal Siakam comes up and sets a screen for Haliburton. Giannis switches. As far as I can read by watching that, I think they ran the play to get Tyrese ISO'd on Giannis, right? Like, is no other way to read that.
What it look like?
I have some texts out to some Pacers coaches. And I just realized I heard back from one of them. And they said, we trusted Ty to make a play. Balls. I mean,
I just hope he kept the game ball. Speaking of balls, I know that's been tension in this heated rivalry that they have. But look, man, all like Tyrese Haliburton was talking trash the whole series long. When it came time to end the thing, 1-on-1 against the best player on the Bucks, one of the top 2 or 3 best players in the world, beats him off the dribble. Gets the layup. There are all this silliness after that. Like, forget about all the silliness after that. What a moment for Tyrese Haliburton who, and one thing about like all the trash talking between him and Dame and like it got heated. Haliburton said after Dame went down, look, that's competitiveness. Like he wears zero because of Dame. He's got that same sort of like, I want the rock in those moment type of things that Dame made a career out of. And this was his, it wasn't a buzzer beater, but it was basically his walk-off series ending moment.
It reminded me of a game he had last year in the playoffs as well, where he turned what looked like a sure loss into a victory. And this is the way he's been able to build his legacy. And he was one of the guys in the U.S. Olympic team that looked like maybe he had no business being there. He didn't get much playing time, and you wondered if he was kind of benefiting from the All-Star game in Indiana last year, and the Pacers needed to prop up a candidate, and maybe the weaker Eastern Conference, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, the lighter
earning the
officiating
stripes
certainly benefited him last year, right? But hey, rough physical playoff series, and that guy got it done time after time after time, and then in the final moments.
Jackson tells us that Gary Trent only had one turnover in the whole series leading up to that. I mean, tough, man. But listen, this is a moment for Tyrese Haliburton to celebrate making those two plays. And he crosses over, he gets the corner turned on Giannis. I'm not sure what the Bucks principles are. Kevin Porter Jr., I don't know what he's supposed to do there. I assume that Giannis, they don't necessarily, normally have to help Giannis. Haliburton goes right past him as if he was passing him on the subway, just right past him, and just totally great shot. And so there's a lot that comes out of this. Tyrese Haliburton with a signature moment against Giannis in that play.
That was unfortunately overshadowed by complete foolishness by his dad, but whatever.
Okay. All right. So then the game ends. These teams don't like each other. And Giannis is involved in what I can tell are two different confrontations.
Yes.
One, John Haliburton, Tyrese's father, who is well known. And let me just say, I have a personal relationship with John, and I love him. I have spent time with him across the planet. Abu Dhabi, Manila, Paris, Las Vegas. I have have been with him and spent some time with him. Love him. Love his passion. He is such a defender of his son. So proud that his son came up from Oshkosh, Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about Tyrese's youth when like nobody appreciated, all the kids from Milwaukee. He and Tyler Hero kind of had similar upbringings in non-urban Wisconsin, where nobody regarded them. They just saw these kids from the sticks. And John still lives in Oshkosh, and still, I don't know if he's still he's like a referee with the Y. I mean, anyway, having said all that, can't do it. First off, you can't come on the court.
and you definitely can't stare down the guy who just got his guts ripped out in what might be his final moments in Milwaukee uniform and talk trash to him. And basically, like, you're asking for a confrontation there. And look, John Haliburton knows it. He tweeted it. I sincerely apologize to Giannis, the Milwaukee Bucks, and the Pacers organization for my actions following tonight's game. This is not a good reflection on our sport or my son, and I will not make that mistake again. Tyrese knows it. He said my pops was not in the right. Giannis said what he had to say. It's unfortunate that John Haliburton let his giddiness get the best of him, wanted to talk some trash, and overshadowed what was the best moment of his son's career to this point.
Yes. And okay. So I think Pat Connaughton got there first. He steps in. Bucks security steps in. Then Giannis goes back and basically has words with John Haliburton.
TJ McConnell came over there too, trying to kind of
make
sure things didn't escalate. although
Right.
he did.
And then Giannis had words with him, which I think were kind of what Giannis probably said in the post game, which was that was disrespectful.
Yeah.
But they left on decent terms. Then, well, I don't think it was decent. They parted like okay.
Giannis said what he had to say, and John Haliburton heard it.
Okay.
He left it there.
Then Giannis gets sort of chest to chest with James Johnson, which is the wrong position to be in.
I think James Johnson was trying to come in and kind of de-escalate other things. He also got in. He got into a Benedict Mathurin.
Well, Benedict Mathurin runs his mouth too now.
He does, and it seemed like Giannis was telling him something along those lines. Giannis kind of had him by the back of the head and neck area, like grabbing it, like, let me tell you something. And there was some push in. And so I think James Johnson was coming in as a well-trained peacemaker.
Well-trained in MMA.
That's what I mean.
But then I saw Giannis and James Johnson like were in each other's face. And then they had a separate powwow where they left on good terms. So a lot of shenanigans went down there. I don't think any of them are relevant. But I do want to go back to what you said about Rick Carlisle. Rick Carlisle defended Tyrese Haliburton, which, it's not surprising that he would when he was labeled most overrated. And then he put the ball in his hands against Giannis, and Tyrese Haliburton delivered. And to me, that's the story of this game. It's not the shenanigans afterwards. Also, guys, Giannis goes for 20 or 30 points, 20 rebounds, 13 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks.
Giannis's numbers in this series are insane.
And now they're
not close to, they got bounced in 5 games.
Now we come to the other devastating stat for the Bucks. The last 10 playoff games that Giannis has played in. And this is what Giannis is going to have to confront in the offseason. And he pushed off. He was asked about his future and about whether he can still win championships in Milwaukee after the game. And he basically said, I don't want to talk about that right now. And I respect that.
Yeah.
In the last 10 playoff games that he's played, he has averaged 30 points, 16 rebounds, 6 or 7 assists on over 50% shooting. And they are 1-9.
Oof.
That is just an indictment. And I know that there's been injuries. I know that there's been things out of their control.
Well, there's injuries moving forward, and things out of.
But how can you look at that if you're Giannis? Like, look, if he says, I just want to be a Buck, I respect it. But if he says he wants to win, I'm not trying to be a.
You can't say that.
What am I supposed to? What Dave? What's he supposed to say?
Well, whom are we indicting, Brian?
We're indicting the Bucks and their future. That's where we're indicting.
What wasn't John Horst just rewarded with a contract extension before this playoffs began?
He was actually in the middle of the playoffs.
And look, I'll say this for John Horst: he's made 2 massive blockbuster trades that have gotten Giannis to sign extensions. The first one, Drew Holiday, led immediately to a championship. The second one, Damian Lillard, didn't work the way anybody hoped that it would in Milwaukee. And obviously that was even before the Achilles.
He's the third player in postseason history with a 30-20-10 game and a loss. The other 2 were Jokic and Lou Alcindor before he changed his name to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Oh, another Bucks.
Another Buck, which, how'd that end? Not great.
I just think the conversation will shift between us and between everyone else in the league immediately to what's the best place for him to go, because clearly he's been spinning his wheels since 2021. And I think it's right, 1 playoff series win since 2021, since he won the championship of one of the most dominant clinching games we've seen in the history of basketball.
Yeah.
His top 3 MVP finish this year. But when your big midseason acquisition for this team was Kyle Kuzma, I know I've been a Kyle Kuzma supporter in the past. I saw him play his best basketball of his career in the bubble for the Lakers, but he hasn't been that guy either. I mean,
Kyle Kuzma wasn't the guy tonight. He was basically nailed to the bench in this game. He played 13 minutes in an overtime game. Brook
I
Lopez, by the
believe
way, played 8 minutes.
I believe he had as many turnovers as made field goals in the series.
Not ideal. All right.
But look, Giannis answered it by not answering the question tonight, which, look, he can either lie, he can be honest, or he can not answer. But not answering is a form of honesty. Of course, he's not looking like, how could he look at this situation and think, you know what? Hey, man, we're going to be okay. Like, we're going to be able to contend. Of course, he doesn't. Like, how he'd be delusional to think he's going to have a chance to continue to contend for I should say, to contend for championships again with Milwaukee, because he obviously hasn't for these last few years. And like Dave said, it's definitely going to shift. And like, it's not like nobody's been talking about this before, but it's definitely going to shift to what's the best fit, what's the most reasonable fit for Giannis among the teams that would have interest and assets to be able to pull off that kind of a trade.
All right. The other gigantic game that took place on Tuesday night, the Detroit Pistons go into Madison Square Garden and extend the series with a huge victory over the Knicks. I got to say, probably two of the biggest moments of the postseason so far happened over the weekend when Aaron Gordon throws down the immaculate putback or whatever. I don't even know. That's not even a good. I heard Brian Anderson say that tonight on TNT. I don't know if that's the nomenclature for it. Whatever it is, that's a one-off moment in NBA history and could end up swinging that series. Denver goes up 3-2. And then the other one was the non-call on Tim Hardaway Jr. getting fouled. Because obviously if they call that foul and Hardaway makes 2 of 3 free throws, if he makes 1 of 3, they go to overtime. He makes 2 of 3. It's now the Pistons up 3-2. We'll never know what would have happened tonight had the Pistons done that. But certainly if you're a Piston fan, you're holding your head on that. But nonetheless, all of these games, I know in game 1, the Knicks ran away with it late, but all of these games have been decided in the fourth quarter. And the last 4 games have come down to it. And the reason that the Knicks were ahead was because Jalen Brunson was great in these fourth quarters. Karl Towns has had some moments too. Jalen Brunson wasn't tonight. He was 4-16. And then in a moment that really defined what happened in the game, Jalen Brunson retweaked his right ankle with about 3 minutes to go in a 2-point game. And had to come out of the game. Josh Hart also had to come out of the game, and they were out for 2 minutes. And in that stretch, Cade Cunningham, who had 13, he didn't have a great overall night, Cade Cunningham, by his standards. It was considering it was an elimination game, his first ever elimination game. It was a great game on the road, but he's had more prolific games. But he goes 6 of 17, but he made like 3 plays, and including a brilliant pass to Jalen Duren, I believe. And the Pistons go up 6 points, and the Knicks have 3 consecutive empty possessions without their late game hero in there. And he's, they had to call time. The thing is, Tibbs had to call timeout because he's got Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson out. Josh Hart's laying on the ground and Brunson's limping. So he has to call timeout. And he doesn't even have the ball, I don't think. Or maybe they had the ball. Yeah, they did have the ball. But he's got to call timeout for an injury stoppage. So he's only got 1 left, and he's got his 2 vitally important players, his best offensive player and his best defensive player, or his most versatile defensive player, are at this table, and they can't get in for like 2 or 3 possessions, 2 or 3 vital possessions. Detroit makes it a 6-point lead, and then New York can't overcome it. Mikal Bridges, by the way, hit a couple of big shots down the stretch. He had 13 points in the fourth quarter. It wasn't like they didn't play well. They played well enough to win, but that stretch was defining. I thought that defined the game. And, Azur Thompson had by far his biggest playoff game of all time. He's not an offensively skilled player, but he went 8 of 10. He missed 6 free throws, but still went 8 of 10. And that was vital scoring for the Pistons because it was not one of the games where their role players were hitting a ton of shots. So this is gritty series, and now the Pistons have a chance, McMahon, to go home and try to force a game 7.
Yeah, and it's awesome experience for a bunch of guys who are playing their first playoff series. Obviously they've got some vets. Tobias Harris, by the way, they were criticized for that signing. He's really been big for them this year. Didn't put up
It was still an overpay, but he has been great in this series.
But it was an overpay that, look, it's not like they're going to hit the salary cap.
I understand. I'm just responding.
You're right, but he's been well worth what they've paid him, not just because of the production, the space that he brings, but he's been a crucial veteran for that group. But man, I was extremely impressed with Cade Cunningham tonight. And yeah, 6 of 17, 5 turnovers. Sure. That dude was in attack mode all night long. Got to the line 12 times, 24, 8, and 8. Another Kobe reference. He definitely had some Kobe assists, including one critical one where, he's drawing 3 guys as he's attacking the basket, and Jalen Duren's there to clean up the trash and get a dunk during that stretch. That guy has proven himself to be a superstar this year and is showing in this series that he's ready for this. He's not intimidated by the moment.
And Brian, you did mention the Pistons role players maybe not hitting as many shots. You might have missed one of the shots taken. We'll see if it was hit by Malik Beasley post-game, where he decided to quote a Knicks fan who said, quote tweet a Knicks fan who said, watch out, Malik Beasley's getting 44 next game. And Beasley, not Malik Beasley, Malik Beasley got a tweet about Mikal Bridges, who said, watch out, Mikal Bridges getting 44 next game. And Malik Beasley quote tweeted and said, minutes.
that
probably actually.
Ammo for the Knicks.
Well, Malik Beasley's not afraid to, he's not a great A trash talker, but he's not afraid to say stuff. I love it.
Well, he's got trash talk body language with that shimmy. Doesn't like when guys shimmy on him. Giannis did to him or not too long ago, pretty recently this season. Yeah. But man, no, fun series, not a pretty series, but this is a battle. And again, I love seeing the Pistons, a bunch of guys, for the most part, who hadn't been in this situation, hadn't been on the stage. This is Madison Square Garden, coming off of just a gut-wrenching loss. So they feel like they got screwed. If they don't show up, the season's over. And dude, whether they are able to, make a historic run and come back and win the series or not, I'm impressed by the Pistons. Like, this is good stuff from a young core that's got a chance to be together for a while.
Yeah, and by the way, Tobias Harris, 17 points, which was a draw with Karl Towns.
And guarded Towns a lot.
Yep. 2 steals, 4 blocks, in addition to 8 rebounds. I mean, that's 6 stocks in a road elimination game. Like, that's playmaking right there.
Hey, he had a better year than Paul George did, I'll tell you that.
Empirically true. I thought the Knicks actually got good play from their bench in this game. Their bench outplayed the Pistons bench. Mitchell Robinson had 13 and 11 and 2 steals and 2 blocks. And I think he had 8 offensive rebounds. Like, there was a bunch of possessions that he saved because he got the ball. And, Miles McBride, his stats don't look so good, but, he was, effective. They didn't just totally wither when Brunson was on the bench. I think, he gave them some good minutes. So, Tibbs actually, played those guys. In fact, believe it or not, Tibbs didn't play anybody 40 minutes in this game, which, he actually played a rotation that, he played an 8-man rotation. Mm-hmm. And he got the starters all had production. Anunoby at 18, Josh Hart had 15, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. Brunson, other than Brunson having a bad shooting night.
And Cat. They've got to have either Brunson or
Yeah,
Cat put up
that's true.
numbers.
But what I'm
And
saying is
neither one of them did. They combined for 33 points on 30 field goal attempts. It's gonna be really hard for them to win.
the Knicks didn't lay an egg. The Pistons just took it.
Yeah.
Is what I want, is the point I'm trying to make. And that's really what was key. And so this, probably the Knicks are going to win, because the idea that the Pistons could win 3 in a row is a big ask. But like, the difference in these games is you can put a sheet of paper between these two teams. And, so it's hard to know which way it'll go. Obviously the Pistons have got to be, sick that they lost games 3 and 4 at home. To lose 2 home games is just brutal. But they get a chance to win and force a game 7 if they can get it done on Thursday night.
Hey, here's a Cade Cunningham stat, courtesy of Syracuse educated Jackson.
Yep.
Only players to average 25, 8, and 8 in their first 5 career playoff games: Luka, Oscar Robertson, Cade Cunningham. Not bad company.
We're going to talk about a really important game, which was the game I was at in Miami on Monday night, which the Cavs won by 55. Just kidding. Just kidding. Boy, was I glad I went down there for that one. That was a highly efficient use of my time.
Hey, get those violins out, baby.
Yeah. No, I always love going to playoff games in Miami. No, we're going to swing it over to Los Angeles. We got 2 teams in Los Angeles to talk about. The Nuggets took a 3-2 series lead on Tuesday night, winning at home over the Clippers. But we got a humongous game Wednesday night that Mr. McMenamin will be attending at crypto.com, where the Lakers try to stave off elimination against the Wolves. Dave, a lot has been reacted to and said about JJ Redick's decision to not substitute in the second half. You went to his press conference that he had, and he basically said, I don't take it back, if I'm not mistaken. What was your viewpoint of the way that played out, and what's left the Lakers facing a 3-1 series deficit here?
You might have heard this before, Brian. JJ Redick is a very self-assured young man. Some may even say stubborn. Listen,
he went to Duke. What do you got to say?
Yeah, that's your contribution. I knew you were going to add that context that helps us paint the full picture of the man. He, in my opinion, has nothing to apologize for. He made the decision at halftime to make that switch, picked the right time to do it in the series, seemingly, because that group responded with a 14-0 run to begin the third quarter with Dorian Finney-Smith, the 6'9" switchable forward, in there for Jackson Hayes. They won the quarter convincingly as well. It wasn't just that start to the quarter, 36-23. Checked in with these guys in between the third and fourth quarter, told them, listen, if you need a blow, tell me. We have timeouts. We'll use them. And that group had a 7-point lead with 4.5 minutes to go in the game. At that point, when you have gone 17 of the 24 minutes in the second half, you're going to bring in Gabe Vincent or Jared Vanderbilt, or
no, you're
Jordan
bringing them in
Goodwin
to start the fourth quarter.
Right. So, well, I mean, but you've already blown past that red light. So,
well, yeah, no, I agree. I agree with 4 minutes to go. They were Thelma and Louise. But Luka and LeBron got tired, in my view.
Well, and look, it didn't work out for them. They looked like they ran out of gas. Anthony Edwards, who played the whole second half as well, certainly did not run out of gas. And that, to me, Anthony Edwards is the guy who we need to be talking about.
I agree.
In the series. Like, hey, let's give credit to this 23-year-old ascending superstar who has snatched control of this series. And, we can nitpick JJ Redick's coaching decision. I think it's highly questionable, second guessable, all that kind of stuff. But the primary reason the Lakers have their backs against the wall is because Anthony Edwards has been the best player in the series, and he has willed the Timberwolves to a 3-1 lead.
I just think more TV time, ink, hand wringing when it comes to NBA coverage goes into minutes and waiver wire acquisitions than anything else. And they are both misnomers. They both amount to nothing, quite frankly. Like, these guys are high level athletes. They have the adrenaline in the moment. They know what they're doing. They condition themselves year round to be in this moment. Nico Harrison might have something to say about that, but one of the guys on the court in game 4. But I don't have a problem with it, honestly. And you could say they got tired. You could say it was an anomaly that Luka missed a layup, an anomaly that LeBron missed one, an anomaly that Austin Reeves missed 2 butt naked threes that he's going to make every other day of his life. They had a call go against them, which the NBA, admitted to, that there should have been 2 free throws for Luka with about 33 seconds left to go in the game. They were down 1. They could have been up 1 and had a totally different complexion to the end of things. And by the way, late in the third quarter, JJ Redick tried to sub in Gabe Vincent, brought him to the scorer's table. There was no break in the action from the 138 mark when he brought him over till it went below 50 seconds. And so, he pulled him back to the bench at that point because he wasn't going to just have him go in for 45 seconds of cardio if a break even came. And let's say that happens. Let's say Gabe Vincent goes in with 1:38 to go and they lose the game. And then we don't have this big stat that everyone's talking about that no coach ever in the last 27 years has played 5 guys for the entirety of the second half. And let's say they still lose, but that stat doesn't exist. Like, is JJ getting the same type of stripe? I don't know, man. I don't know. I just don't buy it.
Luka and LeBron look tired. LeBron didn't score in the fourth.
They combined to go 1 of 8 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, there's
LeBron took 2 shots. LeBron also had a block at the rim on Dante DiVincenzo.
No, I agree. He
didn't look too tired on that one.
No, I agree. You've watched LeBron for decades. He moderates his energy and he rests during the game. It's one of the great things he's learned to do during his career is rest during the game. I'm not saying it's one of the things I started really paying attention to it is in his second stint in Cleveland. And it was like boxers and swimmers do this. Boxers, and Muhammad Ali was brilliant at it. And I know for a while LeBron was super interested in Muhammad Ali. I don't know if he studied that, but boxers find ways to get little scraps of rest in the middle of rounds. Swimmers find ways to get rest when they turn and they rest their arms or whatever. And, LeBron has done this brilliantly throughout his career. He slows down when he needs to rest. He was resting on offense and he needed extra rest because he didn't get any out of the game. That's my opinion. Anybody can disagree. I will say this. 2 things about the Laker team. They're too shallow, which everybody knows. And JJ knows too, because he's voting with his actions. There's no defense. Sure. And they don't have a big, clearly. He doesn't trust Jackson Hayes. He played him 4 minutes. In the fourth quarter of the last 2 games, they got outscored by 10 points in the fourth quarter of game 3. They got outscored by 13 points in the fourth quarter of game 4. Maybe there's a ton of reasons why that happened. I think fatigue was a factor. They get outscored in those 2 quarters in the paint, 20, I think, to 4 or 20 to 6. It's hard. And, and we know that like Luka thrives on having a basket protecting lob threat.
Yeah.
And they've just abandoned that because they have a basket protecting lob threat who happens to be a backup, but he can be effective. We've seen Jackson Hayes be effective, but JJ is so apparently turned off that they've taken their basket defending lob threat that helps Luka in myriad ways.
I think he's a lob threat. A rim protector, I think is.
Well, he's a better rim protector than Dorian Finney-Smith.
They're not a better defensive team.
I agree with you, but I'm saying the points in the paint are like 20 to 4.
Well, and you do really run into some problems there because, when Ant wants to attack and get downhill, he's pretty damn good at it.
Which is why Ant has gotten more free throws than 3-pointers, which is not the case in the regular season.
And again, I'm sorry, the other guy, Julius Randle's having a hell of a series.
He's been amazing.
There's been a lot talked about that trade. It wasn't like Cat basically paid almost immediate dividends in New York. And the fit has been clunky with Randle and the Wolves for most of this year. But man, you want to play small ball, Julius Randle's going to be a load because he can create and he's like like a tackle breaking tight end. I mean, he is a big physical bully ball dribble creator, and that's been huge in this series.
He's been punishing them in transition. He has not having the ball stick as much. I mean, making quick decisions when he catches on the perimeter, either putting it right on the floor, catch and shoot threes. He's drawing some fouls on those shots as well. He's been tremendous. Where I'm in agreement with you, Brian, the fourth quarter, it hasn't just been the last two games. The entire series, I think the Lakers have been outscored 105-69. They're only shooting 32% from there. Again, getting back to the Milwaukee conversation, who are we indicting? I think you could say JJ's coaching. You could also say he looks at the cupboard and he sees it's bare. And so he goes with the guys.
Yeah, they made a decision in February to rescind the trade. And they knew when they rescinded the trade that they were going to hamstring themselves at that position. There was no way to really address it. No. And
Dalton Connect's not a rotation player in the playoffs as a rookie.
Certainly not. I mean, but JJ stopped playing him down the stretch of the season.
Right.
But
and they also to get Luka, it was a 2-for-1 deal. They gave up 2 rotation players for 1. So it was a trade. Yeah. Look, they'll do that trade 1,000 times out of 1,000.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Look, it doesn't mean that they can't. Obviously, they got the 3 seed. They accomplished, they did a great job with it. There's a formula for them to win, but that formula is narrow. I'm not saying that the thread of needle, but what they have to pull off to win is just narrower. Their margin for error was narrower than a lot of other teams. And by the way, you mentioned Julius Randle for sure. He was great coming down the stretch of the season, which is why they finished 17-4. Jaden McDaniels has had 3 excellent games in this series as well.
After getting worn out by Luka last year in that Western Conference Finals, he's been big time on both ends.
The Clippers go into Denver tonight, licking their wounds from that tough loss in Game 4, and they hold Nikola Jokic to 4 of 13 shooting and 13 points. They were switching and living with Chris Dunn and James Harden on him, and it was working. And they still get run out of the building because of 2 reasons. One, Jamal Murray had one of the great playoff games of his career, and he's got a bunch.
Yep.
But this is the Jamal Murray that the Nuggets paid a max contract to last summer, which was a questionable decision, but they paid it to him because they know that in the playoffs, he turns into an all-star, and he was an all-star in this one. 8 of 14 on threes, 43 points. And just in general, excellent play by the role players of the Nuggets. It was what I would term a home win in the NBA, which is where your role players step up great. Christian Brown had a great game. Aaron Gordon, he's a high-level role player, but he had a great game.
Russell Westbrook in the first half.
Westbrook, 8 of 15, hit 3 out of 6 threes, 21 points. He had some suspect play in the second half, but they had built a cushion and they could withstand it. And 4 out of 13, you hold Jokic to. If you're the Clippers, you let Game 1 get away from you. You absolutely have a brutal Game 4 loss. You figure those 2 games you could at least maybe go 1-1, and instead you go 0-2. Then you hold Jokic. Your defensive game plan works, and you hold Jokic to 4 of 13. To lose those 3 games in those fashions, it's tough. But the bottom line, Dave, is that it's 3-2 Nuggets, and the Nuggets have home court. They get to play Game 7 at home, and they look like a championship team tonight again.
Yeah, and the Clippers are going to kick themselves. They missed 10 free throws when they were able to cut into it late. There is a missed free throw by Zubac. There's a uncharacteristic turnover by Powell where he doesn't kind of seem to have any plan, but where he's going with the ball, dribbles into basically a trap with Gordon and I believe it was Westbrook in the right wing. And Denver, again, they're going to have to go into it and try to win on the road here and show the heart of a champion. Some of those guys possessed that won a couple of years ago. I by no means do I feel like the Clippers are out of this thing, though.
Right.
I just they had a slow start here. Christian Brown was great. The momentum plays that he made at the end of the third quarter, again, just pushing the margin wider so that when by the time the Clippers were ready to make their final push, they're dealing with, I think it was like 19 or something like that versus 12. Too much to overcome. But I love the defensive effort we saw from James Harden. Kawhi continues to show shades of the guy who's two-time Finals MVP. I like the Clippers still in the spot that they're in.
James Harden had an offensive dud tonight, 3 of 9. Now it's not in the top 15 of his worst playoff games, but sorry to say. But let me just tell you 2 plus minus numbers from this game. Michael Porter Jr. plus 34. Okay, in 37 minutes. And the Clippers lose this game by 16. And Kawhi played 37 minutes. In his 37 minutes, they're minus 7.
Yeah.
In the 11 minutes he's off the court, they're minus 11. So
and Porter didn't do anything necessarily special, but him toughing out 37 minutes with a bad shoulder. I mean, it's not a shooting shoulder, but when you shoot the ball, it's hard not to involve that other one. Shot it well, 3 of 5 from 3. And clearly was at least a useful defensive player. You can't outscore the other team by 34 and 37 minutes unless you're doing something right on that end. But I tell you, man, and Joke had a bad shooting night, did still have a triple-double, had the 12 assists, obviously just a masterful facilitator. For him to go 4 of 13 and the Nuggets put up 131 points, that's pretty eye-opening. And look, you said it, like, dude, if Jamal Murray plays at the level that he did during that championship run, the Nuggets are real deal threats. And we haven't seen a ton of that from Murray this year. You didn't see it much at all last year during the playoffs. But the guy's got a reputation as a playoff killer for a reason. This is a 640-point playoff performance. And just like he was in complete control. And you're going to have to throw extra bodies at Joker. If you have to throw an extra body at Murray, it's going to be tough. By no means do I think the series is over. It is interesting to think about potential matchups for Nuggets Thunder. But the Clippers are going to have a chance. And as much as Mile High, and they had the 5280 jerseys on today and all that kind of stuff, they're not.
I hate that. I hate when they put one of the gimmick courts down during a vital playoff game. Well, sorry if that makes me.
Those are terrible uniforms, but it's not like they're unbeatable in a home game 7. They lost last year in a home game 7.
That's right. Well, some people may wonder who would the Thunder prefer to play. The Thunder would prefer to play the team that has to win in game 7.
Yeah, I was going to say,
and then immediately fly to Oklahoma City.
Exactly. More than anything, the Thunder just want this series to go 7 games. They want games 6 and 7 to be bloodbaths. They want they want whoever emerges from this series to arrive in Bricktown all bloodied and bruised.
It is a compliment that we don't have to talk about the Celtics because they handle their business, which they did by closing out the Magic. This is what happened last year. The Celtics, nobody paid attention to them because they went flying through the East. I just want to point something out about Jason Tatum, games 3, 4, and 5. He hurt his wrist, had the bone bruise. Go to Orlando, 36 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists. He did have 7 turnovers in that one, but that was his game 3. Game 4, 37 points, 14 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals. And then the closeout game, 35 points, 8 rebounds, 10 assists, 10 of 16 shooting. By the way, the Celtics bench dominated in this game as well. So Drew Holiday is missed last few games with a hamstring, so that's a thing. But now they'll get to rest a little bit, and the Pistons winning bought them some extra days. The Cavs Pacers series will start on Sunday. I suspect, I guess it could start Saturday, but I suspect we're looking at Monday for the start of Celtics, whomever wins Detroit, New York. So they're going to have maybe, I would guess, 6 days off. Maybe it'll be shorter, but that was big, and Tatum got it done.
By the way, Tatum tonight passed Patrick Ewing, Robert Parrish, and Charles Barkley on the all-time career playoff scoring list. He's now 35th in NBA history, and he's just starting his prime.
That's right. Ode to him. All right. Thank you so much to Dave McMenamin. Thank you to MacMahon. Thank you to Jackson for staying up till the wee hours to put this together. Thank you for watching and listening to the Hoop Collective. We will be talking to you later this week.
Adios, amigos.